All right, well, green energy metals like copper and lithium have been garnering a lot of attention lately, thanks to the critical role that they play in the green energy transition. Green energy generation consumes more minerals compared to traditional methods. And given this importance, green energy metals are categorized as critical metals. And to talk us through this burgeoning space, I'm very pleased to introduce experts from three of Kalkine Media's valued clients, namely the Managing Director of Cooper Metals, Ian Warland, the Managing Director of Empire Resources, Sean Richardson, and the Managing Director of Tempest Minerals, Don Smith. All three of our experts will be delivering their presentations, and then we'll also have the opportunity for questions to be posed to them once we've all wrapped up with the individual presentations themselves. Now, our first speaker today is Ian Warland. Ian is, of course, the Managing Director of Cooper Metals, and he brings 25 years of experience in Australia and across the world over a wide range of commodities. He's a highly experienced and successful geologist. In 2006, he was the joint recipient for Explorer of the Year for the discovery of the jacinth and ambrosia zircon-rich mineral sand deposits. And to talk more about the transition into green energy and the role of both critical materials and, of course, Cooper Metals Limited itself, I now throw it over to Ian. Ian, the virtual floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. So can everyone see? Can you see that, James?
Yep, looks good, mate. All yours.
Excellent. Okay, thanks to Kalkine Media for organising today's panel, and also thank you to investors for tuning in. So I'll mostly be talking about Cooper Metals and our flagship project, our copper gold project in the Mount Isa region. So to get started, a quick disclaimer, a little overview of the company. So at a share price of about 30 cents, we've got a market cap of around $13 to $15 million. We've got about $5.5 million in the bank. We've recently raised $2.5 million just in August. And we're a very tightly held company. So the board has around 12% of the company, and the top 20 shareholders have over 50% of the company. So at this market cap, we're really highly leveraged to any exploration success. And you can see our share price performance from when we listed in November last year has been very good. So our issue price was 20 cents. We're currently around 30, just over 30 cents today. And we've been trading in a range around that 30 to 50 cents through most of the year. So a little bit about critical minerals and clean energy. Like most of the viewers, I'm sure, are really familiar with what's driving the demand for copper. So basically, with our transition to clean energy and electric vehicles, we need a lot more copper mineralization, and copper deposits are depleting. So therefore, we need to find more supply of that. So for instance, an electrical vehicle uses at least twice as much copper as a conventional vehicle. And out of the 9 critical minerals that are identified by the International Energy Agency, copper is by far really the most important. And you can see in that graphic there that the blue color is the amount of copper that's needed in power generation and in electric vehicles. So we're going to need a lot of copper going forward, and Cooper Metals wants to be a big supplier of that copper. Just a little bit more to hammer this home. So global refined copper usage will double in the next 15 years. And there's this looming supply gap that you can see in this graph over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So we hope to help fill that supply gap and take advantage of the rising copper prices. Now, in the last couple of months, there has been some pressure on the copper price. It's come down about 20% since April, I believe. But you know, the fundamentals for copper are by far and very, very strong. So in the long term, the copper price, I believe, should continue to rise. And that's why we're really targeting the copper mineralization. Now, I think we're in probably one of the best places in Australia, if not the world, to look for copper. Cooper Metals does have 3 projects. We have 2 projects in WA with a copper gold focus, but our flagship project really is the Mount Isa East Copper Gold project. And Mount Isa Inlier is a very exciting place at the moment to explore for copper gold. There's quite a lot of recent success, and it's a hotbed of merger and acquisition activity, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So going straight into our project there, the Mount Isa East Copper Gold Project. Here's a map of our tenure that you can see in brown. You've got Mount Isa itself just over the left-hand part of the screen. And we're only about 30 to 50 kilometres away from Mount Isa. So we're close to infrastructure. That means if we find any small to medium-sized copper deposits, then there's potential to toll treat that mineralisation through places like Mount Isa, Glencore mine itself, or through Ernest Henry, possibly even Eloise. So there's a number of mines in the area already. There's several small to medium-sized deposits in the area, and what we call the Mary Kathleen domain, which you can see runs through the middle of the screen there. It's a very prospective area. There's deposits like Duchess and the Tickhill Gold. There's the Barbara deposit, which is around 5 million tonnes at 1.6% copper. Now that was open pit mined up to 2020. And I believe that Eris Resources, who now the owners of Barbara, are looking at going underground there potentially in the near future. So it's a highly prospective area. Now that's been highlighted especially by our neighbours, Carnaby Resources. So they're shown here in yellow. They're only about, they're adjacent to our tenure. And they've had some recent discoveries at Nil Desperandum, Lady Fanny, and Mount Hope, where, today they just released a significant intercept of 60 metres at around 3% copper. So there's a lot of exciting activity happening in this highly prospective area of the Mary Kathleen domain at Mount Isa. Now, we've already identified a number of old historical occurrences throughout Cooper's tenure. And a lot of these have had no drilling at all, or just some drilling back in the early 90s. So there's a lot of work to do there. And we've recently had some drilling success at our King Solomon deposit, which I'll talk a bit more about. So King Solomon and the Python copper gold prospects, they're in the sort of northern part of our tenure. You can see this map here. Here's King Solomon. There's a series of old workings at King Solomon, pits and shafts that cover around 1.5 kilometres of strike length. And then just 2 kilometres to the northwest, we've got the Python workings as well. Now, we've done 2 rounds of drilling at King Solomon, which I'll cover in a bit more detail, and hit some significant shallow copper and gold mineralisation. And we'll be going back there late this month to do another round of drilling, and also testing what we call the Python EM conductor up here with the gold star. So Python was a series of old workings, some shafts and pits that have had no real drilling in the past. But while we were looking in that area doing some ground EM, we found a conductor, which we've just worked through the approvals for to do the drilling there, and that'll be starting later in the year. Now, this is a pretty busy slide. What it's showing here, you can see a hot-cold map of the IP chargeability anomaly. So we did some IP induced polarization at King Solomon, and this is what we call King Solomon 1. It covers about 650 metres of strike length, and we've done 2 rounds of RC drilling in that area. And we've hit significant grades like 19 metres at 1.6% copper, in a higher grade portion of around 5 metres at 4.5% copper. So there's significant mineralisation here, which you can see in the next slide, which is our long section. So a long section, if I just flick back, is a section that runs through the length of the mineralisation. And these little pierce points here are the pierce points of the drilling, which are colour-coded by copper mineralisation times metres. And what we've identified is 3 plunging shoots of higher grade copper gold mineralisation. Now, this is really important for our targeting because it gives us a focus for our drilling, which is to follow these plunging shoots down plunge. Now, we've only drilled, you can see from the scale here, we've only really drilled about 150 metres, up to 150 metres down dip. So we've got a lot, it's all open at depth, and there's a lot more drilling to do. Now, this plunge component is something that you see in the Mount Isa district repeating itself at many deposits such as the Barbara deposit, Nil Desperandum, and even the Jericho, D Metallica's Jericho deposit. So part of our next drilling program will be following up these plunging shoots to extend the mineralisation at depth. Just to show you a couple of drill sections, vertical sections, section 1 and section 5, to give you an example of the mineralisation. You can see here down to about 100 metres. This hole got 17 metres at 2.2% down the bottom there, and it's all open at depth. We also have what we call King Solomon 2 and 3. Now that's about 200 metres along strike from King Solomon 1. The best intercept there was 18 metres at 1.4% copper and some gold. And what we're finding, but generally in this area, is a much broader, lower grade copper gold mineralisation, which may be indicative of a large iron oxide copper gold system, which is really encouraging for this area. But the focus for us really is on King Solomon 1 and trying to extend that mineralisation at depth. A bit more detail about Python prospect. Again, this is just about 2.3 kilometres along strike from King Solomon. We'll be following up this EM anomaly, and the EM anomaly that the geophysicist has modelled indicates that there's a plunging shoot, again plunging and around in the southeasterly direction. So that's a really exciting target. We'll be putting 2 RC holes into that starting at the end of this month, and we'll have some news flow about that before Christmas. Now, there's a number of other prospects in our tenure there. I should mention that we've got around 1,600 square kilometres of tenure in the Mount Isa region. So we're building a pipeline of targets to systematically test over the coming months and years. And another one of these is the Yarraman prospect, for an example, which has a 400 metre long soil anomaly, copper and soil anomaly, and that's yet to be drill tested. Similarly, in our southwestern part of the project area, we have some old workings, including the Wonder Mine, where we got some very high grade rock chips, and we intend to do some drilling there in 2023 to follow that up. As part of this building the larger pipeline of deposits or targets to drill in the Mount Isa East area, we've done what we call an airborne EM survey, a VTEM survey that covers these 3 main blocks, which you can see in this diagram here. So that VTEM survey looks for conductive bodies underground that are usually conductive due to sulfides, or they may be conductive through to non-economic mineralisation. So we need to go do ground truthing of these different conductors that we've identified, and that process has already started and it is ongoing. So we'll be generating ground truthing those targets and then generating geochem and follow-up geophysics to get those targets drill ready. Exciting amount of targets to test in our Mount Isa East Copper Gold project. Before I move out off Mount Isa East Copper Gold project, it really is a hotbed of merger and acquisitions activity at the moment. You've just seen Harmony Gold come in and purchase for $230 million, purchased Copper Mountain stake. Now their ground is all around us. You've also seen AIC Minerals doing a takeover for D Metallica, which has the Jericho deposit near Eloise. So it's a really exciting area from an M&A activity as well. Now, just very briefly, we do have the copper gold project in WA that's not far from Silver Lake's Deflector Mine. Deflector Mine has about 1.2 million ounces of gold. It's high grade, and we've been doing some soil sampling out there, generated some gold anomalies, which we hope to follow up in the coming months with some RAB drilling, and we're just going through the approval process there. So we've already identified new targets to follow up, and that's an exciting greenfields project as well. So the key takeaways are that we've intersected significant copper gold mineralisation at our King Solomon prospect already. We've identified 3 plunging shoots, which we'll be following up later this year with some more RC drilling. I intend to do some induced polarisation to look even deeper down, potentially follow that up with diamond drilling next year. And we'll be testing our Python EM conductor this year as well. That we have year-round news flow from three different projects in Australia, and we're well funded and highly leveraged to any exploration success. So thank you for your attention.
I would say promising for the next, well, at least 12 months, potentially further long term than that.
Look, definitely, some of our neighbours have been working in this area for quite a few years, and we've only been not even there 12 months and had significant exploration success already. And I believe we're really just getting started and building that momentum. Like I said, the Mount Isa region is a hotbed of merger and acquisition as well, and and exploration success. So it's a great, exciting area. And if you look at that in the context of a rising copper market with good fundamentals, it's a great project.
100%. I mean, you already spoke in that presentation as well about the increase in the share price from around about 20 cents to now being up over that 30-cent mark. So with all that in the pipeline too, it could well be a nice little windfall for the company too. So thanks for sharing that. I'm sure we're going to get plenty of questions. We'll get to those a little later on. So if you do have any questions and you happen to be tuning in via Zoom or wherever else, particularly on Zoom, if you have a look in the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see Q&A. That's where you can start adding your questions in there for Ian, and of course for our other guest speakers here today as well. And